Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is Leslie Johnson, who is the owner and pharmacist of the Johnson Village Pharmacy in Mayville. Thank you for coming on, Leslie. It was so nice of you to take the morning off and come and doing this program. Okay, why did you decide to become a pharmacist when you were younger? What caused you to do that?
I had a motivated mother, and she kind of gave me a list of occupations that I could be in my life. And I spent a day researching. I spent a day at WCA physical therapy. I shadowed some other profession, talked to teachers, and I talked to a pharmacist that was really excited about her profession, and I just decided, okay, that's for me. And I was good in math and science, so I think that played a part. Yeah.
Don't you have a sister who also became a pharmacist?
I do, and a daughter that's a pharmacist.
Oh, one of your daughters became a pharmacist.
I kind of was wishing we'd have like Anderson Sisters Pharmacy, but that never worked out really. But she's in North Carolina, and my daughter's in Florida. So.
I see.
But we do consult with one another.
That's good. I think the reason I know you have a sister that's a pharmacist was I think I came into the pharmacy one time and she was there and substituting for you. You were out of the country or something?
I went on a couple of Haiti mission trips, and I had my sister relicensed in New York State to help me out, and she filled in for me, and we look a lot alike, and people were wondering why she wasn't very friendly with them, but it was because she was a different person and didn't know them, so that was kind of funny, but yeah. She helped me out a lot and still does. So,
what made you decide to open your own private pharmacy?
Well, I'd done a lot of other things in life. I worked retail pharmacy for a chain. I worked for a clothes shop, independent, that did a lot of compounding. I've done nursing home pharmacy. I worked 6 months in a hospital outside of Chicago area. And I had pretty much done it all. And you know, at some point you just kind of decide that, you know, you want to be your own boss, and you're kind of looking for a way to express your individuality and your loves, you know. I love people, and hospital pharmacy wasn't for me because you're usually in a basement pharmacy, never speaking or seeing patients much.
Can't look out windows.
No, so it just kind of really worked out when Dr. Burke next door, him and Rod Hunt and Rick Newell bought the building, and we're making a building that they wanted to be more of a natural medicine center, and kind of all worked out for me at an amazing time, so it was perfect.
Oh, good, good. Well, I'm glad you did it, because we need more people like you in the Mayville area.
Thank you.
Now, how was it that you, being a pharmacist, got interested in natural medicine?
Well, the first thing that happened was I was opening a drugstore in a building called the Gable Center for Natural Medicine. And at that point, that was 2002, fall of 2002, I really didn't know that much about natural medicine, and I scrambled. When you open a drugstore, you don't really have a lot of business, so I read everything I could get my hands on. I took classes in Buffalo. I took classes anywhere I could find them, so that people that walked in, you know, didn't know more than I did. And I had a customer say, you really need to look into homeopathy. So I started looking into that healing modality, and turns out that turned out to be my love. But you know, really it was because I was in a building that was promoting that's what we were all about, and I thought, gee, I better get with the program.
Yeah. Well, it's worked out for a lot of the people in this area. It really has.
Really good experience.
Now, besides prescription medicines and over-the-counter remedies, you carry a wide variety of other interesting products not carried in the big chain stores. Let's talk about some of them now. You've got herbal remedies, essential oils, teas. She sells these lean and tree cards, and she sent this to me one time. I guess it was back last winter. Just one of the people who'd come to one of our vegetarian society dinners one night asked me, just sort of happened to ask me, do you know anybody who's a homeopathy therapist that I could go to? And I said, is this for yourself or somebody else? And he said, for myself. And I said, well, there's Leslie Johnson at the Johnson Village Pharmacy is certified to do homeopathy. And he said, okay. So it wasn't long afterwards I get this card in the mail. It says, all it takes for me to believe in angels is to imagine you with wings. That meant so much to me when she sent that to me in the mail.
Well, I love lean-in tree cards, and they're just such beautiful graphics and even cute envelopes. And the thing, you know, we get so many bills in the mail now and so much junk mail that I think a little pink envelope makes you go right for it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. You know, I've noticed that the post office and the hardware store also carry lean-in tree cards.
they?
But each one of you has a different selection
Yeah, they
from
make a lot of stuff.
from them. So they must have a really wide variety. I mean, the ones you pick to have in your store and the ones that
Yep.
the post office has and the ones at the everybody's selection is completely different.
I have a rule in my store. I won't carry any cards that I won't send myself.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I would have a tendency to be like that, too. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I make little gift boxes out of used greeting cards.
Oh, really?
I do.
Good recycling.
But I've kind of resisted
Okay, that
using
one's
this
cute,
one. You know, that was
Yeah.
pretty special.
Sometimes I frame ones when I love them. So,
Yeah.
but we have things like a line of books on health issues, which I think is different than most drugstores. And I do focus some of them on homeopathy, but I started learning about natural medicine just using this book right here, Prescription for Natural Cures. Really goes through herbs, and it also goes through conditions that are health conditions and what you can do. They usually put in there for every health condition the super 7 prescriptions that they would recommend you using. It could be an herb, it could be homeopathy, and that's where I started. So I carry a lot of books on different health topics, and this is a favorite too, is the Dr. Pitcairn's Natural Health for Dogs and Cats,
Yeah,
and that includes homeopathy, my love. so-
Dr. Pitcairn is a holistic veterinarian, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I kind of focus more on a natural way of healing, even in my line of books, and then all of these products.
That's
of course.
one of the things that I like about you is if somebody comes in that takes a medication or something and they'd like to try something, you know, more natural and get away from the drugs, that you're willing to help them try to figure something out.
Yeah, thank you. I don't force anything on anyone. I think it's really important that everyone make their own decisions about health care. And you know, I have used this reference book, the Prescription for Natural Cures, quite often. I have a reference copy in the back, and when someone says, boy, I'm really not doing well on this medicine and I'd like to try something natural, sometimes I go right to that, or other books. But and there's many different herbs and homeopathics for each condition, so you kind of have to tailor it to the person. So that's what I try to do. You know, what have you tried? What hasn't worked? What have you heard about? And you know, with the internet now, a lot of people have done their own homework, a lot of it. So
one of the products that you carry over there, the Zelly's xylitol mints, they're my favorite kind, because a lot of the other brands all of xylitol mints, they actually add the synthetic sweeteners to them.
Sweeteners sure
But
do leave a lingering taste sometimes,
but this particular brand, it is, and it's just made out of birch bark.
I know, I love those.
And
healthy mints.
I happen to actually have the opportunity to meet that dentist whose product it is
No kidding.
a couple of times. Yeah.
Wow.
When Toby and Brigitte Halowitz were in the Westfield area, they invited her to come and talk about natural health, for dental health. And I was so impressed with her that I invited her to come and speak at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners.
nice.
Now that I think of it, I should probably have her on this TV show sometime.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, because she's a really interesting person too, you know. So, And then there's a certain kind of gel that you sell over there for bug bites. That's kind of a homeopathic
Sting Stop.
sting stop.
We
yeah.
have some of these creams and gels, and we have them by different manufacturers, not just this. And I'm really not promoting any one product today. I'm just showing people what's out there that is all natural and for pain relief. Arnica, Montana, creams, gels, ointments.
Arnica is supposed to be really good.
It's the #1 selling homeopathic remedy in the world, and comes in creams and gels and ointments for joint pain or any muscle injuries or bruising, trauma. I mean, that's my favorite. And it comes in pellet form, and you can take it orally or creams and gels, so I love that product.
Yeah, the arnica is really good, like for bruising and
Yeah, sure
aches,
is.
all different kinds of aches and pains and
If
things.
someone twists an ankle, they can take it internally or apply it externally, or
Either way, they wouldn't use both.
they can use both at the same time, or they can just use the pellets if they feel like it's more serious, and then the cream if they just want to apply something that gets right to the spot,
Because it gets absorbed quickly through the skin.
Yeah, and that's made from a plant. And the other product I love is called calendula, and that is made from marigolds, and that's perfect for sunburns, burns, windburn, cuts, scrapes, chafing, rashes, and that can be just applied externally, and it soothes the skin, and it's all natural. I
Do you
love that.
know what works really well for me if I get sunburned?
What?
Extra virgin olive oil. Put it directly on the sunburn a couple in the morning and the evening, and then it'll clear up in a couple days, and your skin won't peel.
That's great. Aloe is another natural product useful for that. But yeah, oh, that's interesting. Extra virgin olive
Yeah.
oil. Well, I don't sell that in my store, but we have a lot of other things that we do. We sell aloe.
You people can get it at the grocery store.
That's right.
And let's see, you've got some sort of, somebody's apparently making handmade soaps and things for you to
Yes.
carry in the store.
Yes, I had my very first pharmacy technician, Jessica M. Hart, that couldn't wait to move back to Chautauqua Lake in the Chautauqua area. Moved back after being gone for 10 years, and she makes homemade soaps and things, and she has 3 little girls and said she needed to keep busy at home, so she's back working for me.
I
and
was
making
really happy to see her back
Yeah.
and in the pharmacy again. I kind of missed her.
some- Me too, and we have a
Yeah.
good group there. Really,
yeah,
we do.
yeah, you really do. You know how
Yeah,
to.
and
you
we
know
and
how
we
to
love
pick
our
people.
customers. We have just such a great group of customers in our store too. So we're appreciative of all the business, but it's good to have her back.
Yeah, I was happy
She kept
to
telling
see
me
her.
for 10 years she was coming back, but I didn't know if I believed it or not. But finally, Labor Day weekend.
Her husband got transferred back to this area,
Yeah.
was what it was,
Yeah, with
right?
National Grid. Yeah. So,
Oh, he works for National
yes,
Grid.
They made him
Oh.
go up to Buffalo for a while and work underground, and he's glad to be back above ground.
Oh, yeah. That might be kind of claustrophobic.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can move along and talk about your passion, which is homeopathy. Okay, tell us something about what it is and how you got interested in it.
Okay. Well, homeopathy is a 200-year-old science based on some principles by a man named Samuel Hahnemann, who actually does have a monument in Washington, D.C. built for him. So it's real. And he didn't like the way medicines were scourging people, with bloodletting and leeches and mustard plasters. He hated how harsh it was. So he came up with more of a natural way of healing people in a gentler fashion, which I love. And he really discovered the first 100 homeopathic remedies that are used in our country. This is a homeopathic remedy kit with 50 remedies, and they're tiny, tiny pellets. But most often the pellets are a little bit bigger, maybe like this size. I don't know if you can see with the camera, but
Yeah, they're the same color as the inside of the cap.
yeah, right. But they're pellets that you dissolve in your mouth, basically. And,
Under the tongue,
they come in
right?
bottles that look like this, or the bottles might look like this. Different companies make them. And they kind of go under your tongue, and they're gentle, but they heal kind of from the inside out using your energy. And they're energy medicine, so they heal that way. And an example of something that I think is amazing is grief. And there's no prescription drug for grief, and there's really no herb for grief. But there's a homeopathic remedy that's wonderful for helping those that are suffering with grief and the effects of grief. And one situation I had was a woman that couldn't sleep. Her mother had passed away 4 months prior, and I said, well, what about that? And she said, oh, it's not from that. We're glad my mother's gone. She needed to go, and she was at peace. But I knew that it was really grief unsettling her, that her sleep wasn't right. And she used the remedy Ignatia, which is the homeopathic remedy most often for grieving situations. And she said within 2 weeks she was sleeping like a baby. And I knew that. But you have to go look for the reasons behind things in homeopathy.
Well, you know, I have that symptom just the first night after the loved one passes away, where the first night I cannot sleep. I literally am awake all night. And when my mother passed away, I decided, the night she passed away, I decided to swallow a couple of Benadryl tablets to make sure I couldn't stay awake. And would you believe, after swallowing 2 Benadryl tablets, I was still awake all night?
Well, Benadryl is the over-the-counter sleep agent, and diphenhydramine is the ingredient, and it usually does knock you out.
And it usually does, if I take it.
Sometimes it could work opposite, which it did for you, but your system was in shock or in trauma.
I asked the undertaker about that. I said, why can't I sleep the first night after a loved one dies?
Yeah.
And, he couldn't really explain it. He knows it. He said it's some sort of shock.
It is. It's a disturbance you have that is different than normal. And, and this is where the energy medicine kind of works with your disturbance to help right the situation. And whether it's arnica for pain management or Ignatia for grief, it doesn't fix the problem really, but it helps you heal from the inside a little different than anything I've ever seen in 35 years of being a pharmacist. So that's why I went to school in Canada for 3 years, just to try to understand this science that's been out 200 years and somewhat maligned by the medical community and the FDA. The FDA, they are approved by the FDA.
You did go through quite a lot to get certified to do this, didn't you?
It was a lot,
Why don't you describe what you had to do in order to become certified to do this?
Well, I researched different schools of homeopathy. I wanted to do something official, and there was 2 in Toronto, Canada, and I mean there's one in like New England and one in Arizona, and so this was the closest.
So this was the closest.
It was the closest, 3.5 hours away, and I drove over 65 times to Toronto, Canada. 3.5 hours on a good day. Had to be there by 9 a.m. some days, 10 a.m. others, and I did it, you know, for several years. It's a 3-year program, and there was final exams and stuff, and at my age it was pretty tough, but I loved every minute of it. And I have a good rapport with people up there, and many of the professors are like naturopathic doctors or even chiropractors or homeopaths themselves. So really learned a lot about a lot of things, and passed all the final exams and had a big homeopathic paper that I did, and 80 pages, which when you're 50-some years old, navigating a computer program with papers, and it was crazy.
Yeah, but I can imagine.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so on my days off from being a pharmacist, I see patients that are struggling with health issues that either want to do things in a more natural fashion or have tried everything under the sun and nothing else works. So sometimes you see very difficult situations.
Unfortunately, that's quite often when people turn to natural therapies, is after they put themselves through all of the medical treatments and things.
Yep.
Okay, now can you use herbs can you use homeopathy along with herbs and acupuncture and prescriptions and over-the-counter stuff and all of that? Can you take them all at the same time? It doesn't interact with anything.
And I have this 10 reasons to use homeopathy, and one of it is that it is a complementary medicine, can be used independently along with prescription drugs. There's no drug interactions. Acupuncture, herbs, I've done it all myself, really, and used homeopathy right alongside, and helped me amazingly. So I've been personally helped with homeopathy, and I have gone to several different homeopaths in my life, and it's really great for stress, which everyone seems to be anxious and stressful right now in our society with so much going on in the news, and we're almost barraged with news.
Yeah, I think they talk about the bad stuff on the news way too much.
They do.
People have to listen to it too much, so it gets on their nerves,
It does.
when they're forced to think about it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep. And it's not tested on animals, which is wonderful. And it's cost effective. It's relatively inexpensive. I mean, going to school in Canada wasn't. But getting the products, I mean, a homeopathic remedy bottle with 400 pellets in it, to me, is $9. I mean, that's cheap.
And it lasts a long time.
It'll last a long time. There's really no expiration dates of them. It's environmentally friendly. And it has a natural action. So, I mean, there's just almost no downside to it other than people trying to figure out how to use it, what should I use. And, a book, or I teach classes in it, spring and fall, and we keep a list of people interested in those classes. So if anyone's interested, they can call the pharmacy at 753-3200. Give us their name and email address, and they'll be put on a list, and then we blast out an email when we're going to have a class about a month ahead. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, well, probably by the time this episode airs, there's going to be a movie showing
Yes.
down in Lakewood somewhere.
Yes. So, amazingly enough, some amazing people put together a real movie, like a California movie. It's brought by a movie captain, and I decided to be a movie captain, and I'm bringing it to the Chautauqua Mall Cinema. Now, everyone just can't go see it, so. But I may do it again in the spring.
Yeah, you're already sold
I'm
out
sold out.
for the
75
fall
seats
one.
are sold out for November 30th, but it's called Just One Drop. And if you want to Google it, there's a trailer you can look at. And it's a movie about how amazing homeopathy really is to treat lots and lots of problems. So I'm so excited to see that movie and bring it to Western New York. And 75 people signed up already to buy tickets, which
Wow.
you had to do ahead of time online. So.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, about these classes you teach in homeopathy, what can a person learn if they take your Intro to Homeopathy 101 class?
That's an excellent question. Well, what I do is I focus on this textbook. I actually met this author, and I do love this book. It's called Everybody's Guide to Homeopathic Medicines. The first 42 pages explains the history of homeopathy and how it's made and what it's useful for. And then the book becomes a reference book. So I love that. Like if you had pink eye, conjunctivitis, you could go in the back and read what page, and then
there's
you
different
look.
types of conjunctivitis?
No, but it would just talk about the different remedies that are used. So it's an individual medicine. Not everyone with conjunctivitis might have the exact same situation. So you would read what your situation is, and then I recommend that if people are going to take the class, they don't have to do this, but they buy a kit, because if you're really going to use homeopathy, you might want to have things at your fingertips when you've discovered.
And they have a good long shelf life?
Oh,
do they?
forever. Yeah. So, example, on a Saturday afternoon, my daughter is watching a movie with me, and she says, "Mom, my eyes are killing me." And it's always a Saturday afternoon that your children get sick when there's not a doctor available. And I look at them, and they're very bloodshot, and so I get out my book, and I read in here, and there was 4 or 5 different choices, and I'm reading because sometimes you get tears copiously flowing down your face. Sometimes they're very bloodshot. When she's told me that they felt like they had grains of sand in them, I could read down through the options, and only one said it feels like the person has sand or dust in their eyes. I used the homeopathic remedy euphrasia. She used 2 pellets into her mouth. We did it then, and we did it a half an hour later, and we forgot all about her eyes. Later on that night, I said, "Andrea, how are your eyes feeling?" And she goes, "Oh, I forgot all about it. They're all cleared up, Mom." Whereas a normal pink eye, you'd have it all weekend. Other people can be, it's communicable. You go to the doctor on Monday, you get an antibiotic with your eye drops, and your whole family cannot go to school, or you know how that goes. We fixed it in 4 pellets of euphrasia, which is the herb originally eye bright. So
yeah, as far as conjunctivitis goes, it's my understanding that it can be caused by either a virus or a bacteria, and if they, and so
it could be.
You know, if it's a viral infection in your eyes, the antibiotic eye drops might not do any good.
Yeah, I have someone right now that's had 3 different rounds of different eye drops. But homeopathy, it's almost like you have to catch something quickly and kind of realize it. So Andrea finally said, gee, Mom, my eyes are killing you watching a movie. And then I have to go to my book and look it up, and hopefully you have the remedy at home and just use it. But 4 pellets and it's over. And she forgot all about it, because that's how beautiful it is. It kind of fixes it, and you almost forget you ever had it.
And it does it really quickly usually?
If you get the right remedy, it can fix things in a remarkably fast period of time.
That's interesting.
And that's acute homeopathy, when you're trying to fix an acute little problem that just came up, okay, a cough or a rash or pink eye. But then there's a second type of homeopathy that's long-term problems that people have had for over 4, 5, 6 months, where I would need to sit down, make an appointment for that, because that's deep-seated.
Yeah.
Like someone that can't sleep that doesn't realize it's from grief from 6 months ago. Or
wow.
I do have a story of one little case that I was quite successful on, if I could tell you that
Oh,
one.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was a 2-year-old little girl, and her parents are wonderful parents, and they're from Jamestown, and they do everything right. They have great diets. That little girl had a great diet and was well taken care of, but had a rash from the time she was about 3 weeks old, all over her body. And a lot of pressure was being made. It was now 2 years. I finally was called in. I went to her house to see her, because it's best to see little children in their environment.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And they'd been to another homeopath up in the Buffalo area that chose good remedies, but they didn't really fix it. And so ultimately, I chose a remedy. I failed once, and then I chose a second remedy based on her case. And within 3 weeks, 1 dose a week for 3 weeks, this little girl's rash totally was utterly gone that she'd had for over 2 years. And the parents, we were all, you know, pleasantly amazed about it.
Did it stay away then?
Stayed away, except one day the mother said she had a little spot on her knuckle, but I said, don't worry about that, just put some coconut oil on it, or calendula. And
Did they ever figure out what the cause was?
not really, but you know, there is the theory that it's DNA brought down through generations sometimes that can affect little babies when they're only 3 weeks old. Shouldn't really have almost anything.
I know. That's the thing of it. I can't figure out why
Exactly.
a 3-week-old baby
With a beautiful diet, you know, breast milk.
would
or-
have a rash.
Exactly.
So you don't really know.
But as a homeopath, you take the case and you ask a lot of questions that are kind of strange questions, and you observe the child, and you know, you try to select the right remedy. We're not always successful in the beginning, but if people hang tight, you keep working with them, and the goal is to heal, and that was just amazing. The mother and the grandmother took my homeopathic class, and I think they even posted on my website a recommendation about me. So it was very wonderful.
Do you have any other story that you might like to tell, or not?
I have a story when I went to Haiti on a mission team, and I hadn't gone to Canada studying, but I brought the book and the kit with me, okay? I have 3 quick stories. The first one was on the way down, a young woman to Pittsburgh. It was February, it was -5 degrees here. In Haiti, it was 95, so that's a 100-degree temperature swing.
Yeah.
She was vomiting. And then in the airport in Pittsburgh, she got diarrhea.
How old was this?
She's 18.
18.
And her mother, who's a nurse practitioner, says, do you have anything for her? I said, well, do you care what it is? And she goes, no, just fix her. So I read in the book, vomiting, diarrhea, you know, asked her a few questions, picked a remedy, tossed 2 pellets in her mouth, and she falls right to sleep. And then in 15 minutes, we boarded the plane, and she's right in front of me chatting up a storm with the person next to her. And I poked her through the chairs, and I said, are you better? And she says, Leslie, I'm cured. What were in those pellets? And I didn't really want to tell her. You know, her mother's a nurse practitioner, and I didn't want to get her worried or anything like that. And later on that night, she came back to me and said, Leslie, I'm starting to feel a little bit sick again. And I gave her 2 more pellets and was fine for the whole rest of the trip. And the second one was a nurse with bent-over double diarrhea that we fixed with 2 pellets. And the third one was a woman from Mayville that could not sleep. She was so stirred up, okay, going out of the country. She was in charge of the Vacation Bible School, and about the 3rd night, she said, do you have anything for sleep? So I looked in the book, and I went through all the reasons she might. Do you have one fixed idea in your head running through? No. Did you drink too much pop or caffeine? No. And can you just not get comfortable? That's it. I can't get comfortable. And the remedy for sleep when you cannot get comfortable is arnica montana.
Arnica?
Isn't that interesting?
Oh my gosh.
They're used for lots of different things.
Yeah.
And so I
yeah.
gave her one dose. She slept like a baby, and she came back the next night. I need another sleeping pill, you know. But homeopathy doesn't work that way, really. So I said, oh, it's still working. You don't need another one. And she said, yes, I do. And so I did give her one more dose of 2 pellets, and then she never needed it the rest of the time and slept beautifully.
Oh,
so
that's good.
it can work well when the right remedy is selected. And I was new at homeopathy, and I was like, this is amazing. I need to go learn more.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I've noticed that when you get interested in a certain subject, you know, a certain line of work or whatever, I've noticed that all of a sudden information starts appearing in your life. Have you ever noticed
I have,
that?
yes.
I mean, I've had experiences like that myself. Now, how can someone get in touch with you if they want to know more?
Well, I'm not there every day, all day, but I'm there a lot. It's Johnson's Village Pharmacy. We're located in the beautiful town of Mayville, New York. We're at 99 East Chautauqua Street. Our building is just newly renamed. I think it's called Mayville Professional Building, and we're next to the Family Health Medical Services. Our hours are 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, and 9 to noon on Saturdays. They can call the store at 753-3200. I think the number was up on the screen. We have a website, johnsonsvillagepharmacy.com, and there's an email link that they can email us. And I'm usually there as a pharmacist 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. Not usually on Thursdays. I see patients that day, but they can call the store and we can call them back and get them.
Just the one day a week
You know,
is the only
sometimes
one
I
that
see
you
patients on Mondays and sometimes on Thursdays, and I can arrange for Saturday if none of those other days work. But yeah.
So you're a really busy person, aren't you?
Yeah, I kind of am, and some days it's a lot, and some days it's not. But homeopathy is my love. So, are you ever too busy for something you love? Really?
Not really. Well,
really?
not really. Well,
When
at
I was
least
in
you try-
homeopathy school, I taught my first set of classes, and the people up at the college were like, "Why would you be teaching classes? We have enough on our plates." And I'm like, "Because I think when you teach, you learn." You know, so.
Yeah. Do you have any advice to give people who want to find a more natural way to take care of their health?
Well, certainly with the internet, there are resources abundant. But you also can't believe everything you read in newspapers or magazines or internet. So I think just not looking at one site is good. Really doing some homework. This book, again, Natural Prescription for Natural Cures, is written by a doctor, and there's a lot of conditions in here that they can read about, and so that would be something. We sell this in our store. It's a great gift, actually.
Yeah,
it's like $24.95 or something like that.
Oh,
but
that's not bad for a
it
book
isn't.
that big.
It's a great gift. And, you know, and then my classes in homeopathy, or even like an herb shop. Herbs Are For You in Jamestown has got a new owner, and I know that they're going to keep going, and that's great.
And then people should always eat a healthy diet and
For sure. It's really,
exercise regularly.
yeah, it's
and-
more than just taking supplements.
Yes,
It's
making
really
sure
what
to
you
get
do every day.
to get enough sunshine and enough fresh air, and
Right.
there's a lot to staying away from alcoholic beverages and cigarettes and things.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. And kind of just trying some alternatives. And, you know, if they don't work, then you can always go the prescription route, or, you know, go to a doctor or practitioner. But, you
Right.
know, trying some of these first aren't really a bad thing, because there's not drug interactions.
Right, right.
And like this product here, I love it. There's a lot of people with sinus issues.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, people with high blood pressure really can't take some sinus medicine because it can raise their blood pressure.
Oh,
so that
yeah.
one has no interactions. The tablets dissolve on your tongue, and you can carry them with you. And you can use them more than just 2 a day or 3 a day, and that's nice too, you know.
Yeah, you know, now, Can you get help with homeopathy for the really serious degenerative type diseases? Like we see this day and age, it seems like there's been big increases in things like the various different kinds of cancers and diabetes and heart disease and things like that. Can homeopathy help with that at all?
There is nothing homeopathy can't help with, but homeopathy cannot fix degenerated bone that is leaving. You know, or you know, if someone keeps doing something, like let's say they're a smoker, you know, I can't fix lung tissue when it keeps being damaged.
Right, if they keep doing the bad habits.
But there are things that are helpful for asthma. There's a cell salt that's wonderful for asthma, and cell salts are just called tissue salts. And
What
there's
do they
a great
take?
book in here that talks about things, but asthma, there's a big one for that.
The cell salts, is that something people take internally?
Yeah, and these are quick dissolve tablets, and I can show you if you want to look. They're a little different. They're like quick dissolve, and they are like salts that feed your cells. And that was developed by a man named Schussler, and there's 12 of those. They're very easy to use, and there's one that is miraculous for helping asthma. But if you keep smoking, it's not going to really be helped overall. So you have to make some lifestyle changes.
Well, I have been noticing in recent years, you know, those ads on TV about quitting smoking, they seem to imply that you can cause your children to have asthma and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
If you smoke around them.
And I have seen patients as a homeopath in my office that have issues today because their parents both smoked when they were traveling in cars, being shut up in a car or in the house, or, you know, there's people suffering today that never smoked.
Oh, I know it.
Big time.
I know it.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
And there are homeopathic remedies, believe it or not, that are helpful for cancer. There really are. The nausea and of cancer treatment, chemo, there's great remedies for nausea that are natural, don't interact with chemo treatment. When my mother died, I used quite a few on her, and they really did help her a lot. So,
But there aren't any homeopathic drugs that can cure the diseases 100% then.
there is a book written by the Banerjee boys out of India, and there is treatment for every kind of cancer in this. It's called the Banerjee Protocols. And there's another book by a man named Ramakrishnan that's, I think it's the homeopathic treatment of cancer. In India, they do treat cancers with homeopathy, and I did seek some assistance with my mother, and I think that she lived a lot longer using some natural stuff. But, you know, I don't think too many homeopaths around here treat cancer. I think it's irresponsible for us to say that. But, you know, the nausea of cancer, sure.
Well, you know, I just found this out in September from somebody that apparently the thing that has always been known as frankincense, applied, I think they apply it externally on the part of the body where there's a tumor, and apparently frankincense will shrink tumors. One woman I know that has breast cancer and is very stubborn about using natural therapy only. She'd had her cancer spread into her armpit, and she's been applying frankincense, and the part in the armpit has gone away.
Yeah.
So,
we carry a lot of essential oils like frankincense.
Oh, you carry frankincense?
We do, yeah. And really essential oils are pretty amazing. They've been out for a long, long time, and you put them into a little carrier oil and massage them on swollen lymph, or you know, they can help a child sleep at night with a few drops of lavender, you know, maybe even on the tag of their pajamas, or chamomile is another one that's very soothing for children. And it's also a homeopathic remedy. Chamomilla is wonderful for children for teething. But yeah, I think essential oils definitely have a role in healthcare for sure. And I think ask any massage therapist, they'll tell you so, you know. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the things you can do for yourself. Now, why would people come to your store instead of a big chain pharmacy?
Well, I have worked for big chains, and my daughter works for a chain drugstore in Florida, and there's definitely reasons to go to chains. I mean, some of them are 24 hours, and you know. But our pharmacy, I think, gives a lot more personalized service than a chain. Chains are really about the numbers filling a lot of prescriptions, you know, and we're really more about the customer service. And we like, when someone walks in our door, we like to know them and know what their story is. And we might ask a lot of questions, or if they're looking for something natural, we kind of get to know their story. It's hard sometimes if you're real busy. I may say, come back on a slower day, or let's make an appointment. But I think that every person is an individual and needs to be treated as such, and I think that's what we're really good at, is recognizing that everyone that has sleep problems doesn't need the same product.
Right.
In prescription world, they all pretty much get Ambien.
Oh, yeah.
But in homeopathy, you get different things based on the reasons behind the problem. And I think that's what we excel at, is recognizing everyone's individual nature. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And caring about the person, too, and
Well,
trying
I
to
know-
do the best we can. Pharmacy and prescription world is a changing every year. Your Medicare D drug plan changes, your insurance changes. I mean, it's a
yeah.
nightmare, and I think we also help people. We guide them on the best places to go for information and stuff like that. So I think
Yeah.
nowadays, I know for a fact that they don't really want pharmacists out front in chain pharmacies giving people a lot of help, because they really want them back there filling prescriptions. And we kind of like the fact that they want help, and we help them.
Yeah, I know it has a nice, friendly atmosphere to it.
Thank you.
And is there anything else that makes you different?
Well, I guess maybe that I've used a lot of these products makes me different. Like, one of my favorite products is called Rescue Remedy. It's out of England, and it's for stress and anxiety. And you just spray a couple drops under your tongue like that.
Like when you're going to be on television?
When you're going to be on television, I carry it with me. And within 5 minutes, you really feel less stress. And I used it in Haiti a lot because that was stressful in time. But something like that. And there's also drops of Rescue Remedy for animals. And a lot of veterinarians have recommended that people put the drops in the water for a dog that's scary, or you know, with a thunderstorm or
Right.
stuff
And,
like
and a lot of dogs do tend to be really afraid of thunder and lightning.
They do. And Rescue Remedy is a good, I think it's $20 a bottle or something, inexpensive way of doing something natural. It's homeopathic, it's natural. So I have so many possibilities. Sometimes you have to ask questions on how to help someone. But, you know, for like flu, this is a product I take everywhere I go. It's advertised on TV now, oscillococcinum, and they're pellets that you use for flu prevention and flu treatment. And I don't go anywhere without that, and pretty much Rescue Remedy in my purse. And so I've used a lot of these things myself, you know, and I think that's different,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And we teach the classes, which is my passion. I love it. I limit it to about 22 to 24 people max now, because it's a more intimate environment.
Yeah, yeah.
And people bring their stories, and that is so interesting. I taught a class just this fall, and I didn't realize it, but a gentleman in my class from Dunkirk had poison ivy.
Oh.
And I taught about the remedy Rustox, which is made from poison ivy. Homeopathy's like a little bit of using the problem to fix it, okay? So he bought from me Rustox that night, never saying anything that he had poison ivy, and he came back to class a week later and said, "You're not going to believe this, but I'd had a case of poison ivy." I taught the class in June. He'd had the case since February, and he said it
oh my
totally
gosh, really?
reabsorbed or dried up in 1 week, and he couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
you
that
know-
made him a believer.
Well, you know, there's this is probably not common knowledge, but there is a natural antidote for poison ivy that grows not too far. Where they say that wherever you see it growing, you know poison ivy's not too far away.
Interesting.
And that's called jewelweed. You've
Oh, I have
probably heard of
jewelweed.
that.
Yes, I have.
And for those of you who don't know what jewelweed is, it's that plant that you see that gets these orange-colored blossoms on it in the late summer and early fall, and if you touch them, they kind of explode. They're also called touch-me-nots, I think.
Okay.
And the juice from the jewelweed plant will do a really good job of clearing poison ivy up too.
Well, and homeopathy isn't really something you think about using preventatively, but there is a protocol, and it's how to treat prophylactically, which means preventatively for people that are in professions like tree cutters or you know, people that work a lot in brush, and it is literally using the homeopathic remedy wrist tox made out of poison ivy,
Just in case they run into
Yes.
it while they're out working.
and I'm really interested to hear it from one of my customers who got poison ivy constantly from his dog, who would come in from
Oh, the
outside
dog
with
would
it,
get into
petting the
it.
dog. And he tried the protocol. It's written by a doctor, and I've got it at the pharmacy, and I think he hasn't had poison ivy at all this year. So
Oh, good.
I'm really interested in hearing back from him. So
Yeah, I've always been interested in natural therapies for poison ivy because we live out in the woods, and
I know you do.
we run in.
You're
we have-
gardeners.
We have run-ins with it quite often, you know.
Yeah.
So if one of us gets into it, we usually pass it along to the other too.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, you don't know you've been into it, so you haven't washed it off, and then.
And interesting to think your dog can give it to you.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, I've heard of that before.
Yep.
You know, I remember being at somebody's house somewhere one time, and their neighbor's dog came over and had like some weeds and stuff in its mouth, and I was wearing shorts, and the dog spit all this chewed up weeds out, and it landed on my leg, and wouldn't you know it, I came down with a rash on my leg where the dog had spit some weeds up onto me. So I did poison ivy treatment for that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, another reason that I think the remedies are good is they're little pellets that even little babies and little kids can use. They're safe, FDA approved, and safe. In
Oh, even the FDA has approved.
FDA has
Oh,
approved
good,
them,
good.
and they're safe in infants and pregnant women and dogs and cats and animals, and so there's just no one that can't benefit from something like this, which I love. And they do make combinations, like here's a jet lag combination, and here's a sinus congestion and headache and anger. You know, what prescription drug is for anger? There really isn't one. What are they going to do,
No,
give you an antidepressant? Well, you're not really depressed, you're angry.
Yeah,
you know, and-
about all they can do is have you heavily sedated,
Exactly.
the medical profession, if you're angry.
So it kind of fills a niche where there isn't something, I found, you know. And that's one of the reasons I was so interested in it. And there's some interesting books about it. Like there's homeopathic remedies for women. There's homeopathy for musculoskeletal healing. There's a website, and it used to be called minimum.com, that sells a lot of books on homeopathy. And I think it's called wholehealthnow.com. But if you go to minimum.com, it reroutes you. And so there's a lot of good information out there. But I think my class is a really good way for people to get started, because I try to keep it inexpensive. It's anywhere from $75 to $100. It's usually 3 classes or 6 hours worth of information, and
Now, this is not a class that they could get certified
No.
through or anything. It's just a way for people to learn how to take care of themselves,
yeah,
right?
it's lay people, and it's perfect for families with a lot of children or that just want to do things in a natural way, like my daughter's pink eye on a Saturday afternoon, that just really want to take a little more charge of their own health and their family's health, and kind of do it themselves in a little tiny pellets that are sugar-based in your mouth. It's really medicine dropped on top of little pellets. And the pellet size doesn't matter. They make little dinky pellets like salt grain size in a kit, or bigger pellets in the bottles. But they're tasty.
Yeah, there was the one young woman when you spoke recently at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners who asked you if, I think, was it lactose or something
There's
that she asked
a small
about?
bit. They're made out of sucrose and lactose,
Uh-huh.
but the lactose is very tiny in here. But if someone was supremely lactose problematic, they can get remedies made in liquid form.
Well, I think the reason she asked you that is she has an autoimmune disease. She's lucky to still be alive. It took her so long to figure out what was wrong with her.
She doesn't want to go backwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
They can be made into
I mean,
liquids.
I mean, she's severely allergic to corn, and they put corn in almost
Oh,
anything.
high fructose corn syrups. And
You know,
everything.
I mean,
Terrible for us.
She spoke last year for us at one of our dinners about the problem that she has. She cannot. They put corn goes by. It was 2 sides of an 8 by 10 sheet of paper that she passed out to us of the different names that the ingredient corn goes by. Citric acid.
Oh my God.
All kinds of things, you know,
Wow.
all kinds of things that are given weird other
you wouldn't even think
other
were
names that you
corn-related.
would never make the connection. She cannot eat at a restaurant.
Right.
She can't. She really can't eat food that other people fix. You know.
I know.
So
That's tough.
basically,
that is a tough situation.
yeah, yeah. So well, she's got it under control. She seems to be doing really well with it.
And in a case like that, we order from 5 different companies. A couple of them are overseas, actually, and the remedies can not be dropped onto sugar pellets, and they can be made into liquid, and you can just do drops in your mouth. So that's possible too. You know. So
Yeah.
really,
yeah,
everyone
so-
can use homeopathy in some fashion.
Right, right. And maybe you even have something that helps people with the stress that they're experiencing from knowing that they have a serious illness,
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. There's a cell salt that combines 4 different phosphates. It's called biochemic phosphates. And when you're very under stress, you sort of burn out some things, and this replenishes you. So that's an easy $13 fix, you know, to replenish. And then there's the stress of rescue remedy. And there are other bigger homeopathic remedies for stress too, but I kind of take that more case by case. But and there's herbs for stress. We have one called Stress Arrest that we like in the pharmacy, and Cortrex, and that replenishes your adrenal glands when you're under stress and you get burned out. It's from adrenal burnout, and so we have stuff to replenish that.
And another thing that there seems to be a lot of around these days is various different digestive illnesses.
For sure.
Too. So
I think it's our food.
probably the standard American diet at the Vegetarian Society, we refer to it by its initials, which is the word SAD.
Oh, perfect.
And then there's another one they've come up recently where that they also call by its initials, diet of affluence, DOA.
Oh, cute. Cute.
So
Well, I have a book in my pharmacy called The China Study, written by T. Colin
I've
Campbell.
read that, yes.
And I read that book, and I changed my life just reading the preface. I never read prefaces hardly, and I read that one and went, oh, I need to do things totally differently than I've been doing. So I've changed my diet a lot, and
I've changed my reading habits a lot over the years since I was in my middle 20s, you know, and got interested in taking better care of myself.
Exactly.
I don't even like to read fiction anymore. I like to read things that I can learn how to do something from.
And this is where I'm almost crazy obsessed with the homeopathic and herbal world, because I just want to, and for me it's helping others.
Right,
But,
exactly.
You know, like here's a book called The Homeopathic Treatment of Children, you know, and so that's the store's copy because I use it as a reference, but I just can't almost stand it if I don't hardly read any books that aren't about health or helping people or diet or food or something.
That's the same way with me. I read I'll go to used book sales, you know, where I can pick books up for 50 cents or $1,
Yep.
and I'll go perusing through them to find books written by somebody named John Robbins that I'm a big fan of.
Andrew Weil.
Andrew Weil.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just anybody that I know is a reliable source of information.
Well, this is a great little book, this one. It's called Homeopathy, Beyond Flat Earth Medicine. This guy is a naturopathic doctor that always used homeopathy, thought he was missing out on something, went to med school, and ultimately went back to homeopathy. And it's a really cute read with a lot of little cases in it, a little skinny book. But that one is fun.
Well, I know Toby Halowitz.
He was upstairs in my building.
Yeah, he the story that I heard from him about how he got into being a naturopathic doctor was he was actually going to regular medical school. Apparently his father had been a doctor too, so he was going to follow in his footsteps, and he was going to medical school, and then the girl that he wound up marrying had come to the United States from Austria because they were expecting people to, they wanted their nurses to practice in the United States for a while for some reason. I don't know. So anyway, they met.
Yeah.
And when he went to Austria with her to visit her family, and they were up in the mountains where there was a lot of clean, fresh air, and had their own honeybees and made their own honey and grew their own food organically and everything. He was sick himself.
Right.
See, he had Crohn's disease,
Right.
and he realized that when he was up there, he started feeling better when he was living a more natural lifestyle, visiting his in-laws, that he switched. He just switched to becoming a naturopathic doctor because he felt the natural way of life would be more beneficial than being a medical doctor.
Well, it is. I think natural is the way to go if you can, but I often also say, if I'm dying, give me a doctor and a drug, please.
Give me a doctor and a drug if you're
Sometimes I say that.
dying.
Yes. But we sell things like local honey and coconut oil and apple cider vinegar by Bragg's. I mean, we have some food supplements that people look for. I think we have some chia seeds and bee pollen and, you know, different things like that. But
is there anything, we're down to a minute and a half left, and if there's anything you definitely wanted to make sure to tell everybody?
Well, I do want to say that we carry a variety of kind of interesting things, and this year we are doing something a little different, but we've decided that sometimes men and women don't know what to get their loved ones for holidays, and we can make gift baskets up of kind of some natural medicine things. If you ever think, you know, someone would enjoy that, just tell us a dollar amount and we can put that together for people for the holidays, whether it has natural soaps or homeopathy or a remedy kit, and a book is a beautiful gift to give somebody that might not want to spend the money.
Those gift baskets could also contain either a basket of like your herbal teas.
Oh yeah, we have lots of herbal teas.
Or a basket of personal care products too.
And we carry aromatherapy diffusers and things, which is a nice gift, and some essential oils. So we have some gifty items. We're not super ultra gifty, but more in the healthcare gifty kind of stuff. So we have that. And if someone is interested in an appointment, I do make them well in advance, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your having taken the morning off from work and coming to be on my program.
It's been kind of fun.
Maybe we can have you come again and talk about something slightly different sometime.
That'd be all right with me.
And I will see the rest of you in a couple of weeks. Here comes